I asked retired four-star General Jack Keane what the drone strike by Ukraine deep into Russia means militarily for Ukraine. Watch this.
They targeted the very bombers that have been killing Ukrainian citizens and Ukrainian soldiers. They used conventional bombs out of those bombers as well as air-launched cruise missiles. What makes the operation so stunning is that the Ukrainians clandestinely contracted with Russian drivers, Russian trucks to do the move, purchased Russian shipping containers, and then assembled the drones in those shipping containers, all in Russia. Quite stunning, and the results are equal to the imagination that was used in this operation.
High praise indeed from a retired four-star general. Mike Baker's with us. He's a former CIA covert operations officer. I've read reports this morning that that drone attack deep inside Russia changes warfare, changes the nature of warfare. You go that far?
Well, I would say that the use of drones changes warfare, not necessarily just this operation. Look, the operation was brilliant, as the general just mentioned, on par with the Hezbollah pager operation that took place. The complexity of it, the need for human assets on the ground in a very hostile environment. Zelensky said it could have taken up to 18 months in the planning stages. And it's important from both a logistical or practical means and also from a symbolic means, right? So from a military perspective, the damage done is probably somewhere in between what Zelensky and the Ukrainian military are reporting, some 40, strategic long-range bombers hit, and some A-50s, their version of the AWACS. And it's, it's not what the Russians are downplaying, right? So as the U.S. estimates are saying, about half of what was initially reported. That is significant because estimates have the Russians at about 80 of these long-range strategic bombers at this point. So if you take out 20 of them, my math is terrible, but I think that's about 25%.
Yeah, you take that
see, look at that. Look at that. That's why the CIA hired me, because my math abilities. But it's an incredibly impressive operation.
Yeah.
And again, from a symbolic perspective, this is probably more than anything else, more than the past attacks that they've engaged in. This has probably shook Putin more than anything.
It's fascinating to me because in future conflicts, a country has to worry about the enemy betting people inside their country with drones that they can then knock off your own military. Yes. This really changes things. They've got the Kursk bridge now. It planted all these explosives underneath it.
Yeah, they've targeted that bridge in the past a couple of times. That's a really symbolic. The damage done in this latest attack, not quite as impressive as what was done during the aerial assaults on the strategic bombers in the various places. Look, that operation covered the entire Soviet, over Russia. Yeah. I was about to say Soviet.
That was back in your day.
How old am I?
Well, they struck in Siberia.
Yeah, they struck in Siberia. It stretched across 5 time zones, all the way to near the border with Finland, where they had another attack. Yeah. So this is all part of an effort, in a sense, to see, is there any way to drive Putin seriously to the negotiating table? Now, I don't think he has any intention of looking for an actual peace plan, Putin, I mean. And Zelensky, I think, feels the same way. Hopefully, the White House has gotten on board at this point with the fact that Putin is not someone you can really deal with. He's stringing this along.
Well, the Ukrainians have got a delegation at the White House today, no doubt for saying.
Right.
We'll tell you about it next time it happens.
Exactly.
All right, Mike, thanks for joining us.
Sure, of course. Thank you.